Absolutely, Paul. No, I haven't forgotten. I've got it right here. 4 o'clock. Yeah. Listen, I realize that this will be difficult. It's, thank you for understanding. That's very understanding. Yeah, okay. All right. I'll see you then. Okay.
The power of prayer never ceases to amaze. At Mass on Sunday, I said a petition that a new man appear in your life.
Well, faith is a beautiful thing, Grace, but Paul Sterling is not that man.
You don't tie yourself up in knots when you're talking to Bailey.
He's the U.S. attorney prosecuting Jack, and to date, our relationship has been purely professional and completely telephonic.
What's 4 o'clock?
He's coming here to take my preliminary statement.
Did you wear that outfit so he could take your statement, or you could take his temperature?
I wore it because it was the only thing in my closet that was clean. Excuse me. Samantha Waters.
Sam, I need you and Grace out in Peachtree City, 444 McKinley Avenue. Invitation by Chief of Homicide.
Yeah, what have you got?
An opportunity. Pristine crime scene, 3 hours old. Details on site. See you there.
You ever notice how when Bailey gets official, he stops using verbs?
Jack Webb lives.
Take a look at this. Hawker 700, confiscated by the DEA when they busted the Laporta cartel. Cruising speed 468 knots, range 3,044 nautical miles. We could be anywhere in the country within hours. Damn, I want that plane, John.
Why don't you get it transferred?
Phelps won't let it go.
They love their toys. Weren't you guys in the service together? Why don't you appeal to one serviceman to another?
Bobby Phelps is a man steeped in the American tradition of honesty and fair play. There's only one way to deal with a guy like that. You find a soft spot and squeeze.
Nice threads. Donna Karen or Helmut Lang?
What, are you dating someone from Vogue?
Women's wear daily.
Roy Munson, second victim in as many weeks. First murder took place less than a mile from here. White males, 48 and 52. Ligature strangulation.
Same old, same old.
And both victims were castrated.
So much for same old, same old.
You did say pristine.
Yeah.
Officer Brown. John Grant, who's in charge here?
Sir Watkins was first on scene.
From homicide?
Traffic, sir.
Clear out the dead wood.
Yes, sir.
All non-essential personnel, please disperse. Please disperse now.
John Grant, Violent Crimes Task Force.
Look, I was just driving my route. I'm traffic, see, and this guy flags me down, and the next thing I know,
It's slow, Doogie. Which guy?
he was a pizza guy. He says that there's a body in here. I mean, I'm traffic. I've never seen a body before, especially one who's missing his...
Petechiae is consistent with strangulation. Ligature left a clean line, nice edges. I'll be able to establish the kind of material when I get him back to the shop. The unkindest cut.
You know, I can't work here. This is chaos. Where was the first victim found?
Philip Dumont, 17 East Chester. I'll get you an escort.
Okay, I'll come back when the convention's over.
So I call for backup, and the next thing I know, this place is crawling. I mean, I'm traffic.
And I'm sure you'll have a great career writing tickets. Now, who's the LT who took the call?
Right here. You know, I wanted this crime scene maintained.
Gibson, I'm sorry.
You are going on report. No, amend it. You're up for a departmental reprimand.
Hey,
no.
amend this. Bailey Malone, BCTF. Officer Watkins performed admirably under circumstances beyond the scope of his training. The integrity of this crime scene was your responsibility, Lieutenant. So if there's a candidate for departmental reprimand, you win by a landslide.
Grandpa!
Come on, get the boy out of here.
I want to see him. Let's go. Let's go with me.
Kids and I don't relate.
Someday you'll be a father, John. What then?
I'll call you.
21 years. It's pretty cool. They didn't have them when I was a kid. Did you come to your grandpa's house a lot?
Yeah, after school. We play catch.
Every day? You don't go home after school? Is your mom home?
No, she works.
Your dad? Ryan, it's okay to cry.
I don't want to cry.
Rented from Vagabond Video.
Is that significant?
It's in a heavily gay part of town. The other victim, Demont, he had a bunch of tapes, too.
From Vagabond?
All right, I have to check.
Was DeMont gay?
Oh, he was indeed.
But if I had to bet, I'd say an anti-gay hate crime or the end of a lover's triangle.
You're talking serious vexation.
I am indeed.
Sexual orientation, maintenance, crimes.
Look, you transfer the Hawker to the VCTF, and I can get my picture in the paper as often as you did for busting the border. And I've had some lovely 8x10s made up.
Not a chance, bud. No, that plane happens to be the icing on the biggest piece of cake I've ever cut.
Now, come on, Bobby. You've got 3 jets on the tarmac in Trenton, and my people have to take the bus.
Way I see it, a guy like you needs to keep it on a very low horizon. Actually, that bus worked for you.
Well, can't blame me for trying.
No, I can't.
Anyway, I'm glad you were able to get around that evidence problem.
Absolutely.
My best to Carol.
Yeah. I'm alone. What evidence problem?
Well, you know, a phantom 24 hours when the dope disappeared from lockup. The border's lawyers find out, they'll blow your case wide open. Something I picked up at the bus station. But not to worry, your secret's gold with me.
We're dealing with the ultimate removal of manhood. Now, whether the killer is doing it to punish, to gratify himself, or because of his own insecurity, I don't know.
Military's a petri dish for wackos.
Well, the military is also the ultimate symbol of manhood. This guy could be rejecting his background.
Sam thinks the killer's military.
Well, I can't say for sure, but there was definitely a sense of military ritual at the Dumont crime scene.
Was Dumont a veteran?
He dodged the draft. Munson was 4F.
Dumont's house was a real mess. I mean, he was a really sloppy housekeeper. Place hadn't been vacuumed in.
Well, that's fine.
Why? Because he was gay?
Well, you're a slob too, but you got to admit it's the exception.
Yeah, I'm starting a support group.
Let's keep on track, fellas. Sam?
There was a broken vase in the study, but all of the pieces had been neatly swept together, and the area around the couch where the mutilation had taken place was very neat. All the throw pillows had been arranged symmetrically.
As if you'd been trained to be neat.
Right.
Prince?
Only the victims. The killer must have worn gloves.
Are we dealing with a hate crime?
Well, we don't know if both victims were gay.
Odds are.
Why?
Because I've worked my share of mutilations, and the majority have a homosexual overtone. The killer or victim or both. Munson was divorced 10 years ago. None of his neighbors knew him to have any kind of female association.
Well, maybe he missed his wife.
All that is a torch of Olympian proportions.
Well, they have been known to stay lit.
In traditional hate crimes, usually any victim will do as long as they're part of the offensive group. Now, sexual mutilation is usually personal and usually the result of intense rage.
The quintessential gay bashing.
You're still making an assumption about Munson.
There is no passion in these crimes. There are no slashing wounds. There is nothing that suggests our killer is out of control. It is very cold. It is very precise.
There was no sign of a break-in at either scene, so we're assuming they either knew the killer or at least felt unthreatened by him.
And the videos?
They both had accounts at Vagabond. And just because that's in a gay neighborhood doesn't prove a thing about Munson. He rented golf instructional tapes, okay?
I just think we should check out the store, employee records.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
For now, we'll go with the military angle. Run a search of bases in the area, looking for anyone with a record of sexual misconduct or abuse.
Locals are also checking bars and any other business that cater to gays.
Based on the race of the victims, we believe the killer's white.
And strong as hell. Munson weighed 210, Dumont 197, which tells you how muscled up the killer is. If you can choke a man to death, especially if he's struggling...
Well, he might not have been struggling. If the killer has combat training, he may be able to render his victims helpless immediately. Acquired skill would be more of a weapon than brute strength.
Castration occurred post-mortem, which, from the victim's point of view, you gotta say thank God for small favors. Oh, your U.S. attorney friend, Paul Sterling? He's new in town, but on a very fast track. I made some calls.
Grace.
Happy to do it. Suma from Emory, 38, never been married, which is good because you get to mold him fresh.
I don't really want to talk about molding, all right? I'm not really in a molding mode. Never married.
Never.
I don't want to talk about this, all right? I want to talk about this.
You gotta start to get some fun out of life, sweetie. Well, he was very careful. Almost surgical.
He felt in control of his environment. He probably planned the attack down to the last detail. What?
Man, would you look at the size of those feet.
You got mail.
Getting a download from Central Division. Stephen Daniel Gelb, 26. 11 drunken disorderlies, felony assault, a gay bashing. Victim is now paraplegic. Gelb was released on time served, did a whopping 3 months. Thank you very much. Dishonorable from the Army 6 months before the attack, with last known employer Vagabond video.
We only got Titanic and Letterbox. If you want it in pan and scan,
Stephen
then you
Gelb?
gotta...
Don't move.
All right? Yeah. Good news. They got Titanic in the letterbox.
Let's go.
Is everything in order?
Yes, everything is, I can sign this.
I have a couple eyes in Stat Limited, so I like stuff with people in them.
I do landscapes mostly.
Donald Lucas, a.k.a. Jack. You went to see him in prison. How come? I mean, you did go see him.
Yes. There are things that I need to know.
Well, that's certainly intellectually intriguing, but the basis of my question is emotional. You're in love with him.
How can you possibly say that?
Well, I mean, maybe not in love with the man himself, but certainly in love with the idea that you were the absolute focus of his obsession.
That is disgusting.
It took you 7 years to catch him, the most advanced unit of its kind in the FBI. The only way I can explain that, Dr. Waters, is that you weren't trying very hard.
No, get out of my office.
And then you go to see him in prison. Now, this is the man that killed your husband among scores of others. You obviously did it to continue a relationship that fulfills in you some
You know what
perverse
to
type of...
insinuate that I derive anything from this relationship other than 7 years of agony is exactly what the defense is going to do.
Yep. I'm sorry about that, Samantha, but what I just did is absolutely nothing compared to the tactics that they will use. They'll not only impugn you as a witness, but they'll try to paint you as an unwitting accomplice. They'll splay you open like a frog in a biology class, and I'd hate to see it happen. It may not have to. His defense team is willing to deal. It's a plea of insanity to keep the needle out of his arm. It's something...
No deal.
Is it worth it to have every memory thrown back at you? Is it worth that for you or for Chloe?
No deal.
Do you want him dead?
He's not insane. He's guilty.
Do you want
I
him
want
dead?
closure for me and my daughter and the families of everyone that he killed. Now, the only way that I'm going to get that is through due process.
Well, from everything I've heard about you, that's exactly what I figured you'd say.
What exactly have you heard about me?
Nice threads.
You didn't have to run. 2 minutes of answering questions and I'd have been out the door. You wanted to take a pop at me.
I got this problem with authority. My parole officer tells me that all the time.
You missed your last 3 meets with him.
They were inconvenient.
I'm sure. You were too busy renting tapes to Philip Dumont and Roy Munson. Less than 24 hours before they were killed.
Meaning what?
Meaning you knew them. You knew where they lived, what they liked to rent. Maybe you let them flirt with you a little. You were trolling, Steve. That was your way of getting close to him.
I never got close to him.
Come on, man. Longer this takes, the harder it's gonna be.
I told you everything there is.
You didn't tell me why you killed him.
I didn't.
Then why'd you run? You're looking at double homicide.
I ran because of the tapes. Me and some buddies had a bootleg operation going down. I thought you were busting me for that.
You've made a lot of mistakes in your life. Not least of which is thinking I'm as big a moron as you are. You hated Dumont and Munson.
Didn't even know Munson and Dumont.
You were repulsed and attracted at the same time. You're one confused and malignant son of a bitch.
Didn't kill him.
Yes, you did. And you got off on it.
Get the hell away from me.
I believe him. I mean, he said it himself. He rejects authority. Our killer embraces it. He's precise, orderly.
What about Larry
Steve looks
Robinson?
like he's wearing last week's lunch.
Who? Larry Robinson. The guy you picked up at Pepe's and beat to within an inch of his life.
There's a history of sexual assault, military.
What about him?
Sense of order just doesn't fit, Bailey.
Well, he does fit Grace's assessment of the physical characteristics.
So is half the NFL.
Like you care about some pervert that gets roughed up.
He's a human being, dipwad. You beat him into a coma, put him in intensive care for 6 weeks, and a wheelchair for the rest of his life?
I worked that off.
Bailey, he's got it in him.
I'm beginning to think you've got it in you, John. What the hell was that?
Sir, this is Joan Andrews.
Roy Munson was my father. And I loved him. And I'd have loved him if he was gay or not, but he was not. And there are people in my family and in this community to whom this makes a difference.
I didn't say anything.
It's right here.
I was talking to Gibson. He asked if we were looking at a bashing. I said it was a possibility we had.
They see it in the paper coming from the FBI, and they believe it. You may not read the Peachtree City Gazette.
Ma'am, I did not talk to a reporter. There is no way this comment can be attributed to me.
Roy Munson was the only father my son has ever known. Ryan idolized that man, and today he was suspended from school for fighting with some kid who called his grandfather a fag.
Mrs. Andrews, sometimes in building a case we have to speculate. Based on evidence we find at the crime scene, based on...
Mrs. Andrews, I'll call the newspaper. We'll get a retraction.
What, on page 30?
On behalf of Agent Grant, I sincerely apologize. Well, if there's anything we can do to help...
You might try to catch the bastard who did this.
You know me better. You could have stuck up for me a little bit.
When it's justified, I'll fall on my sword, John. This was sloppy work, and you know it. Might have helped if you offered to talk to her son.
I don't want to talk to her son. This isn't about her son. You hired me because of my instincts, because I don't give a flying crap about political correctness.
Political correctness, my ass. We're not talking abstract philosophy, John. There are human ramifications to what we do, which is why speculation belongs in this office, not on the front page of the Peachtree Gazette.
You know, that suit really fits you.
Go back to work, John. There's a wedding album on the side table. Divorced man.
I missed it.
Scratches are fresh. The table was moved here and then moved back to its original position. Locals themselves could have done it.
Bailey, what do you remember most about the Army?
Saying goodbye to my mother, knowing it was for the last time. Heat. Seeing my buddies blown to pieces. Wanting to get the hell out.
But you didn't.
I had a duty to perform.
Duty. Obligation.
He feels obligated to kill.
But killing alone doesn't fulfill that obligation. That's why he mutilates them.
Targeted specifically, which means somehow he knew his victims.
Well, at least well enough to be invited inside. He's cold. Wedded to authority and order. This is not the expression of a passionate, jilted lover or a gay-bashing lunatic. No. This is a clinical statement. I'm taking your manhood because you don't deserve it.
Mr. Meisberger, I'm Officer Brown. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
What about that damn liquor store?
Yes, sir.
I told those other cops I didn't see a thing.
If we go over it again, some of the details
I'm
might...
closed now.
Excuse me, sir. It's very important. It'll only take a few minutes.